What's going on, y'all? This is Bronco Juggalo, and it's time for 1970s The Curse of Frankenstein. Now, I don't know if you could hear it there at the beginning of this video, but I'm in a little bit of the tag end of this cold shit that I've gotten. So I'm almost done. Almost done with that, you know. I'm also almost done with the franchise, the Hammer Frankenstein franchise, and today I am doing the Horror of Frankenstein from 1970. Now, this film was directed by Jimmy Sangster, and for the first time, it does not star Peter Cushing as Baron Victor von Frankenstein. It stars Ralph Bates. Now, Ralph Bates was the new up-and-coming star for horror and for Hammer, and they thought this would be a good way to showcase him in this remake of The Curse of Frankenstein. It also stars David Prowse. Yes, Darth Vader himself plays the monster. And the beautiful Queen of Hammer, Veronica Carlson, as Elizabeth. Young Victor Frankenstein kills his father in order to secure his baronetcy and to do what he wants, which is to go to university, which is basically go to medical school. He returns to his manor some years later as Dr. Victor Baron von Frankenstein and starts his unholy experiments and a lot of fun on the side. Now, this movie did have a much more tongue-in-cheek quality to it, a much more sexual quality to it as well. There was a lot more sexual stuff in this movie than in other previous Hammer Frankenstein films. As I said, this was a remake of The Curse of Frankenstein, and when Jimmy Sangster came in, he was also brought in to help produce, direct, and write. And he thought he didn't really like the script. He was just a straight-up remake, almost shot for shot, I guess, of Curse of Frankenstein. And he was like, no, let's change it up a little bit. And let's do a little bit more. Let's have some fun. Let's put some sexiness in there. And it really does work. It's a good film. It's not my favorite in this franchise, but it is my favorite, one of my favorites of 1970. And it's a really good movie. Now, this is one of two Hammer films that was completely financed by EMI. And I think that's pretty dope. Now, I truly feel that this film is kind of a bridge between the classic Gothic horror of the 1950s and 60s and the more American teen-style horror that we got in the 1970s and 80s. And you can kind of see the influence of the decade on the film, the influence of the late 60s and the early 70s on this film. In fact, I'm going to get into that more in my pros. But first, I'm going to go with some cons, because I do have a couple for this movie. The only other thing is, even though I think David Prowse did a great job, his scars and his stitching looked like it was all drawn on with marker. It wasn't done very well with makeup. Now, his face looked pretty good, but the stitches and the scars, it was just like marks on his face, and it looked like it was drawn on with marker. I really didn't enjoy that part. But, once again, small cons in this film. Now, we talk about the influence of the 70s and the late 60s, and you can definitely see it in this. Like, there is a part where Frankenstein is controlling an arm, and he's showing his friend that he can do this kind of stuff. And he's controlling an arm, and the arm comes up and brings its fingers together and throws up a peace sign. Well, in the American version, part of the humor of the film, it was actually a middle finger, which I've never seen the American version. This has the British version on it. This is the Scream Factory with the British version. As always, the setting is beautiful, as in all these movies. But one thing that really stood out to me about the settings and the the surroundings is the castle in this movie is just brilliant. It's gorgeous. I'm not sure which castle this is that they filmed at, but it is freaking beautiful. Frankenstein is much more unsympathetic in this. You don't in the Peter Cushing films, at least until Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed, you kind of felt some sympathy for Victor. You really do. And there's none of that in this one. He is just cold, calculating, and he's just really a dick. He's really an asshole. But he's still charismatic, and Ralph Bates does a really good job bringing him to life. This movie has two beautiful leading ladies who are both incredible actresses that do a great job. And I just really am... I think that we're blessed in a way to have film we're blessed that we can go back and look at the works of people that came before us. People like Veronica Carlson, and see the work that she did. And it's always going to live on. No matter what happens, whether she's alive or dead, whether any of us are alive or dead, their work will live on. And that's something I'm very grateful for to all of film and music and just all that. That's why I think physical media is so important as well, because digital, all it takes for digital is just one broken down connection and it all gets erased. Everything. Physical media, we always have something to hold on to that gives us that connection to their work. And that's something that I'm very happy with. David Prowse as the monster in this is straight up brutal. He's just a straight up like serial killer, basically. He doesn't give a shit. He has no conscience, there's no sympathy for him as well. You know how in the Universal Frankenstein or even in Curse of Frankenstein, you felt some sympathy for the monsters. You really felt bad for them because they were victims. In this, he's just a fucking killer that don't give a shit. Just like Baron Frankenstein, he's a killer that don't give a shit. There's no sympathy in either one of these characters. And that is something that I actually really enjoyed in this film. It was a different kind of change of pace. Guys, go and check out Horror of Frankenstein if you haven't already. It's an awesome film. And it's one of my favorites of 1970, which you can see by going and checking out my Top 2 for Tuesday video for 1970. I only have one movie left, guys. Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell, which showcases the return of Peter Cushing to the franchise. Let's check that one out. Check this one out. Check them all out. And after I do that one, I'll have a ranking for you. This is Bronco Juggalo saying, it's hammer time. Peace out.
Are afraid of me, many reasons they should be. Creatures what they labeled me, leave them bleeding painfully. These bitches cannot compete.